doing a VSR video breakdown on Bodee, Hawkins. Um, his dad, Dustin, pretty much taught me everything I know about strength and conditioning and stuff like that. So it's been pretty fun for it to come full circle and me start working with his kid. Kid is just a ridiculous athlete. I'm not surprised based on knowing his family. So we're just getting him to throw a little more athletic. We got some moving parts in here that are working against him a little bit, but they're pretty easy to clean up. So I'm just gonna put this up so he can go back and look and know what I'm talking about. So as a general rule, as your foot starts getting in the ground, so out of hand separation here with the glove and the hand, he's basically going the opposite way of where he needs to be going. Shoulders shouldn't be creating this. We should be either level through here, and if you watch like a video of me or a lot of guys, they're up with their shoulders. They're creating this upward angle to create some leverage, so to say, so that arm kind of sits in back here, and as this glove goes down, it pulls the arm over. So with a kid this young, you'll see as that foot settles in right there, foot strike, you can really see how much this front shoulder's pulled off. Glove's completely gone. Okay, so with a kid this young, essentially you could teach him to kind of goalpost, get him in like here just to exaggerate that position. So we kind of worked on that a little bit. He's cleaned this up a lot, but with that front shoulder pulling off, I mean, the shoulders are an axis. So as that front shoulder pulls, it takes your arm and pulls it in, which you can kind of see he's got a big long arm circle, right? So he's got this big long arm circle, which is completely fine. But when that foot sits into the ground right there, you can see his arm is late for one. Okay, so maybe that frame that I showed before was just a little late. So actually it's about right there. But still, that front shoulder's gone. Arm is late to load with that big arm circle. So he basically never gets into like a healthy 90-degree position back here. So I mean, if we're going to take an angle and kind of look at it, we're looking at about that. We got to have that arm at about about right there, so to say, because the farther away it is from 90, the more stress you're putting through your actual limb, through here, and you need to have it in a good launch position back here, so when the axis of the shoulders rotate in, it allows the shoulder to make the throw, taking the stress, as much stress as possible off the arm. Now he does a good job kind of driving his elbow in and getting his hand on top, but he's cheating all the way through that position, and that just is not, that's not a pattern that you can do consistently and it's going to hold up. So we worked pretty hard. So that was before I really had coached him up at all, and we went through a bunch of stuff where I was some towel drills, and I had him looking in the mirror and stuff like that. And this was kind of the first change that he made. Like I said, with a kid this young, you can't be throwing too many things at him at once. So I wasn't even really worried about the glove, so to say. Right now I was more so just looking at what he was going to do back here with his arm. But as you can see, as that foot gets into the ground, I mean, so the arm's already kind of bent, so he still has a big enough arm circle, and arm circles are completely fine. But you can see as that heel settles in right there, if we actually had his glove off of his front shoulder instead of back behind him right there, we would be money. Because now that foot is in the ground. Let's see if I can get this angle to work. And we're like there. Okay, so a really good adjustment by him. A lot healthier. So as you can see, as that left shoulder turns, it brings the right shoulder with, and it brings his arm with it. So that is the direction that we need to be going with him. Okay. Going forward, so this was me kind of working with him, just like getting him in this position. Now we started to kind of implement the work of the glove. He still is kind of dropping it a little bit, but I told him to simulate what it would be like to kind of when his foot would hit the ground where his arm needed to be. Look at that. So now we've got this going on back here. We've at least got the glove there. A general rule that I teach most of my guys is I want to see the glove either shoulder height or above. You can obviously get too high with the glove. I mean, some guys are pretty extreme with it. But, I mean, as long as it's somewhere around there, we're good. So that'll be an easy fix for him. But look at as those shoulders come in, boom, arm comes right with it. Just a lot more efficient, healthy, and consistent pattern. Let's see if I can get this to zoom in a little bit. So, good job by him. Like I said, really good athlete. Dude makes adjustments quickly. So, instead of kind of pre-setting him into that position, I just told him, all right, man, start working to keep that glove in. Pretty good exaggeration on his part, but I mean, look, as his foot, boom, heel settles in like right there. There's our axis with the shoulders, arms back behind him. Now as those hips and shoulders start to turn in, look at that arm staying in that loaded position. So as the shoulders turn, hand kind of lays back behind his head, which kind of, releases that tension off the elbow. Boom, comes forward. Good job. Okay, so just a good adjustment on his part. This type of stuff is not easy to fix, especially in a young kid. So we're going to keep him coming in. Now, I just want to look at his pitching delivery. He's throwing in games every Saturday, I think it is. So and throwing particularly well. I guess I do have some game footage of him. But I don't want to mess with too much, especially when a kid's in the middle of a season. But one thing that the biggest thing that I was working on with him was making him focus on his athleticism. Now, what I want you to kind of focus on through this is what he's doing down here with his lower body, through his delivery right now. And this was before I taught him anything. I just wanted to look. You can just tell it's pretty, it's not very dynamic. There's just not a ton going on. Now, again, kid's 9 years old. But here's what I was having him do. So this kind of, I have some mirrors in my facility where I have kids look at kind of what they're doing. And I was telling him that as he lifted his leg, as he gets that leg up to kind of control his hips, he's got to start getting into his leg. Because if you go back and look at this one right here, let's see. If we go back and look at this one right here, as he lifts his leg and goes down the mound, there's like no bend in it. You're really not going to get any power transfer from the ground if you're not getting some flexion into that knee. So going forward, I'm kind of making him feel it right here. Now as he's going down the mound right there, I was kind of just distracted his body back for him a little bit. As he starts going forward, watch this. Boom. Okay, hips clear out. Now, realistically, as he hits foot strike, I still got to have these shoulders in. That in itself is a pretty advanced pitching position, to create hip and shoulder separation with the hips, kind of like with the hips basically pushed through here and the shoulders staying back. It's a very difficult thing to do. Most of my high school guys are just now kind of learning it. But for him, if he's focusing on just utilizing his athleticism of getting down the mound, dude's going to be just fine. I can always teach him to get his arm back, But if the delivery is not dynamic, then we're just already working against what in my opinion is his best attribute. So that to me is a huge adjustment for him. Just getting into that leg right there, and you can just see just springs him forward. So great job, dude. Good adjustment. All right, and I do have some game footage of him right here. So one thing that you can see right there, and this game footage, if I'm not mistaken, was after we had worked on this stuff. So I mean, I'm not going to take any credit, especially just because I've only worked with him 2 or 3 times. But I do like to look at game footage because I like to see what an athlete looks like kind of in autopilot, so to say, just to see what he looks like when he's in a game. So you can see what I'm talking about with that back leg. I mean, there's not a ton going on there. One thing though that looks good now, we did work on his arm a couple times before this outing, is that heel sits into the ground right there. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but I'm going to draw a little bit off of his arm here. We're probably a little closer to 100 there, and you want to be about 85 to 90 degrees of flexion in your arm as you're coming forward. But he would get that flexion a lot easier if we didn't have this front shoulder right here pulling him off. Okay, so for him, as simple as I can put it, got to be dynamic down here, and we have to distract shoulders back upstairs. Been really fun to work with this kid, like I said, so I'm gonna get him dialed in, and the older that he gets, I mean, getting him started on this type of stuff this young is a little bit challenging in the beginning, but the more that we do it and the more that he understands, I mean, within a couple years he's gonna have it down. So I'll snag some more video of him as I keep working with him and get him up on the channel.